In this review of the week's news, car parking headaches continue for Christchurch residents, the Town Hall gets an official blessing ahead of repair, and the bright lights shine in the city's gardens. This is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Jared McCulloch. It'll now cost you a minimum of $1 for car parking in the CBD. But is that a bit much in a city that's trying to get people back in? Here's Chelsea Daniels.
Off-street parking in Middleton was a hot topic in this morning's council meeting, with the mayor unwilling to budge. The Spraydon, Heathcote and Riccarton Wigram community boards approached the council wanting something done. The Annex Birmingham Rights route upgrade project sees to manage the increased traffic along the route. However, the plans for both projects slashes on street parking by 60% under the 3-year planned capital program. Since the earthquakes, many office-based businesses have relocated to the area, and they say the original on-site parking are no longer sufficient to cater for staff. But Leanne wasn't too pleased that the issue wasn't submitted with other concerns throughout the long-term plan hearings.
We're asking people to make serious priority decisions over the next few months over what we can spend and not spend, because we have got financial challenges, and to put more money on our capital program budget that wasn't even raised in the context of our LTP, which for goodness sake was only passed a week or so ago. That's the challenge that we've got.
She says that they need to understand the city has priorities and they need to be carefully reviewed.
What we have committed to do, which is completely review our capital program from start to finish. That means that you join the queue with everyone else and you look at the project compared to all other projects.
Yes.
And we are going to do a very in-depth analysis of this. We have undertaken to do so. There is a lot on the line and we need to get it right.
A majority of councillors agreed to spend just over $27,000 to provide 26 street parks on the west side of Magdala Place. However, they want more time and consideration spent on the west side parking, which calls for a considerably higher sum of just over $300,000 for just 33 parks. Councillor Tim Scandrett says other areas of the city have had money thrown at it in a similar fashion, but it's not the right approach.
We've had huge problems and issues with parking in Addington, and we've spent a lot of time on that, and obviously council money, staff time, etc. And personally, I don't think it's actually come to the right solution, but that's really affected that community very badly.
What I'm saying is that personally I'm prepared to support the staff recommendation. I'm not prepared to support the greater contribution that's being sought until we've done that review of our program. But I am happy for it to be included in the consideration of the capital program going forward.
The proposal will have to take a back seat for the time being. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
The official blessing of the Town Hall took place on Wednesday, with the restoration due to kick off this month.
The Town Hall site received its blessing this morning, with construction for the restoration project set to begin this month. With the contract between the Christchurch City Council and Hawkins Construction now signed, the city should expect a fully restored Town Hall within the next 3 years.
We've worked very hard alongside the council and the council team to ensure that that's a realistic timeframe. Sure that that's going to be tested at times, but when we work together in a collaborative environment, we meet those challenges head on, as I say, and manage and understand those risks to not only budget but also timeframes.
A total of $127.5 million has been budgeted for the project, with $68.9 million funded by an insurance payout and the remainder through ratepayers' contributions. The Category 1 heritage building was originally opened in 1972 and has played a part in just about every Cantabrian's life.
Look, everyone I've spoken to, not so much in my circles, but everyone I've spoken to is really pleased that the town hall's been replaced or being revamped. I mean, you know, we've only got so many historical buildings left in Christchurch, and I think it's important that we make an effort to save those that we can.
The restoration work will include a reconfiguration of the James Hay Theatre, seeing to the needs of the growing performing arts community in Christchurch. Because the James Hay was originally designed to be a theatre, the makeover will ensure the venue is adaptable, with retractable seating and making sure it has the right acoustics.
Prior to the earthquakes, the city really didn't have a space that provided sort of a mid-sized symphonic venue, and it didn't really have a flat floor venue for gigs. And I think by repurposing the James Hay, we're filling a gap in the market.
He says that not only would the revamp of the theatre be vital in securing out-of-town acts, but provide a good learning arena for local groups.
I think that will attract gigs from out of town, but also provides the opportunity for the local groups, local acts to grow, come into a space like this, cut their teeth on performances, you know, with a crowd of 1,000, and grow onto the world stage. So, you know, we've got some fantastic acts locally that, if we can give them the opportunity, it'll be great for the city.
Peter says that they were focused on creating the right facilities for the people of Christchurch.
What we looked at very closely is what does the city need, and what's the most cost-effective way to provide it. And when we looked at the analysis, the sensible solution was to retain the town hall. It's got some wonderful spaces in it that arguably we couldn't have afforded to replace with new buildings.
Late last month, the council decided to vote unanimously to have the town hall saved, all apart from one councillor. Councillor Jamie Goff was concerned about the costs escalating and other issues, including asbestos and ground problems.
So the worst possible thing that you could ever do in a decision-making role is to not make a decision. So in the event that the full restoration option is passed, then I back the collective decision. I'm part of a governance group, and when we make a decision, whatever the outcome of that is, I own. You know how I feel about it. I've been upfront and honest with you about my concerns with it, but I won't pick holes in it. And it's my job to ensure that we make the best go of it that we can.
However, he chose to back the other councillors despite his concerns. And they'll be hoping to get the same turnout when it reopens again to the public in 2018. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
Still to come, a book to help anxious children following the quakes. Welcome back. Two Christchurch mothers are doing it for themselves and decided to put pen to paper to help children suffering anxiety since the earthquakes. Chelsea Daniels explains.
A unique new teaching resource has been launched in Christchurch today to help support children with anxiety following the earthquakes. The Worry Bug project consists of 2 books, one for the classroom and the other to be taken home by Canterbury students next term.
The lovely thing about this is that here's 2 women who have decided that they want to do something about it, and having never written a book before, they've decided to write 2. They've gone to amazing Christchurch illustrator, gotten it done. The Community Trust has come on board to fund it, so suddenly 23,000 copies of one of these books goes straight out to kids.
Authors Serena and Julie both work closely with children, and being mothers themselves, decided to create something fresh to address the issue.
The inspiration for the book really came from personal experience and battling with anxiety in our own family and the families of the people that lived around us and in our school community, and it just felt like it was everywhere. It became such a focus.
The books opt for a collaborative effort from teachers and parents, as opposed to leaving the child to work out their worries for themselves.
There are still a lot of people on the ground in Canterbury working really hard for our kids, so it's not that there weren't, but I think this has got a difference in that it's about families and classrooms and that synergy of working together, like Serena said. It's not just focused on individual children.
Research from the All Right campaign earlier this year shows that nearly a third of Canterbury parents agreed that their children were too anxious or clingy. But Julie says the earthquakes haven't necessarily affected our kids for the worse.
They're building resilience because of what they've been through. They're not just experiencing anxiety. They're going to grow into these great adults who know how to manage serious situations.
Deputy Mayor Vicky Buck is supportive of the project and says it's an exciting time for Cantabrian children.
I think actually it's lovely that people have presented the fact that people are worried, kids are worried, and that they've presented in a way that makes it very understandable and sort of speaks to the fact that actually a whole lot of people are worried, and it's okay, but there are things that you can do about that as well.
A total of 23,000 copies of Maya and the Worry Bug will be given at no cost, thanks to the support of the Canterbury Community Trust.
We felt this was quite a revolutionary way of dealing with this issue and represented a different way of thinking, so we wanted to be part of making that happen.
Illustrated by award-winning artist and Christchurch local Jenny Cooper, the book focuses on how important family involvement is when addressing these issues in a child's life.
It's been lovely to build a relationship with her, and actually she's just had to go, but she said, call me for the next one. So she's really exciting, she's really backed it, and when Kieran was reading it before, she had tears in her eyes, and it was so beautiful to have been part of something with someone who was able to invest themselves emotionally, understand the story, understand us, love kids, and just made it a perfect marriage, really.
The book can be purchased online for Canterbury children to enjoy for years to come. Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
The government announced changes this week within Environment Canterbury, seeing the regional council move to a mixed governance organisation. A shake-up for Environment Canterbury. Today the government announced plans to move the struggling regional council into a mixed governance body. Back in September 2009, the government stepped in after a joint letter from the regional mayors and districts raised concerns about ECAN's performance, with an independent review group set up to investigate the situation. Now the Environment Minister says a further 3 years are needed to get the organisation back in shape and running as a full council.
The commissioners have done, in our view, an awesome job of getting into place both a natural resources plan and a land and water plan, with a exercise that's going to take about a further 3 years with each of the sub-regions to complete that job.
The council will be split into 4 different zones around the region, with 4 councillors being elected from Christchurch and with 1 from all the other areas in North, South and Mid Canterbury. The review showed around 70% of consent sent to ECAN took far too long than legal maximum timeframes put in place, and was noted as the worst performing council throughout New Zealand. One of the main concerns was around water quality, with Environment Canterbury performing ineffectively towards managing the region's supply.
Water is just such a huge issue for Canterbury, that half the water takes in New Zealand are in this region, that a third of the hydroelectricity generation is in this region, over half the storage of hydroelectricity is in this region, and this region has some of the most critical issues around both nutrients and in terms of water quality.
Smith says the new mixed governance plan will help keep relationships with other councils and Ngāi Tahu strong, and will give time for ECAN to complete plans for the region's environmental future.
While the transition back to a fully elected council is important, we want to see that water job complete. And so the intention in moving to a mixed model in 2016 and a fully elected council in 2019 is to manage that transition. It is also the government's intention to retain the limited appeal rights on that water plan to ensure that they meet that deadline in 2019.
And the Minister says it's a positive step to get Canterbury back on its feet.
On the basis of the strong submissions that we received from the 10 councils across Canterbury, the government has made the decision that the legislation will move to a fully elected council in 2019, and it's also consistent with the announcements the Prime Minister made last week about the role of SERA in effectively transitioning overall governance in Canterbury back to business as normal by 2019.
Another review will take place in 2018 to see how the council was tracking before a full return likely the following year. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. 2 Canterbury University graduates are preparing themselves for one of the biggest international talks about a hot topic, climate change. It's a topic that's been debated for many years, the effects of climate change from here and around the world. And now 2 local Cantabrians have been selected to travel to Paris to talk about it more in depth. The United Nations are holding a worldwide negotiations talk on climate change to help people understand what is really happening around the world. And Natalie Jones is one of the delegates who has been selected to take part in the talks, speaking to me via Skype from Mexico.
This year the opportunity came up to go with the New Zealand youth delegation, and they were recruiting a team from all around the country. And so I applied and had an interview, and I was really lucky to get selected.
She finished studying at Canterbury University back in 2012 and since then has focused on a passion of hers, finding ways to combat climate change. Jones is currently working in Mexico as a legal intern at one of the country's environmental associations. But it was at university where her interest in climate change came about.
I know I've been aware of climate change as a problem. I mean, since I was a child, it's just one of those things that's always been on the news, on people's minds. I was studying climatology and how the atmosphere works and approaching it from that perspective as well. And it was becoming clearer and clearer to me that climate change is a really massive problem that is going to profoundly affect my future and the futures of people my age.
She says it's something people are told a lot about but don't fully understand. But when the conference kicks off later in the year, she's hoping to send back information via the internet, through social media and their website to keep people here in New Zealand informed.
It's a really crazy world in the UN, and we want to make sure that ordinary New Zealanders know what's going on, because even in the news sometimes it can be really hard to know.
The conference has been running for over 20 years, with it being made up of nearly 200 governments working together under the Conference of Parties, also known as COP, to make decisions and goals to tackle the growing problem. Jones believes New Zealand has a role to play and says she's continuing to learn new information as time goes on.
It's one of those things that, because the issues involved are so scientific often and also very political, it's actually quite hard to know what's going on, and until you actually look into it a lot and do a lot of research, I mean, I'm still discovering new things. I mean, from time to time, it's just such a massive area.
She was chosen along with 8 others from right here in New Zealand, and joining her is another local graduate. And she says she's looking forward to it.
It's fantastic to have 2 Cantabrians on board because the rest of the team are living in Auckland or Wellington, so it's great to have 2 to represent the South Island.
Jones is set to jet off to Paris later this year, with the talks kicking off at the end of November. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. Still to come, the Botanic Gardens are lit up with light for Kids Fest. Welcome back. It was one of the most popular movies when it was released back in the mid-2000s, and the Canterbury Museum is now celebrating its 2nd Night at the Museum event since the earthquakes. Ever wondered what happens at the museum when the lights are out? Well, it may not be as extreme as this hit Hollywood film, but one of Canterbury's most popular attractions throughout the day is now open at night with the lights out and open to explore. Canterbury Museum have been doing the Night at the Museum event for the last 11 years, loosely based on the Hollywood blockbuster movie of the same name. This year's theme evolved around the creepy crawlies, linked to one of the museum's latest displays, and one of the organisers says a lot of work has gone in behind the scenes to make it happen.
Well, it's a greater team effort, really, and I think that's a great thing. So about 6 months out, we have several groups within the museum. So we have our comms team, we have our public programs team, and then we have our exhibitions team. So we all put our ideas together on the table, come up with all sorts of bizarre ideas.
The young Cantabs are asked to dress up in their favourite insect costume and take a tour around the displays in their pitch-black rooms. And I also made an effort with this groovy headset, but besides the dress up and getting lost in the museum, the idea is to find as many creepy insects as possible. And Marissa says she's hoping for a large crowd.
Over 7,000 people over the 4 nights, so it was incredible. It was really well done. I think that was the first time we had run Night at the Museum post-quake, so it was good to see people in the community coming back out again.
And the idea around this year's theme came from their own exhibit on display.
We called it Creepy Crawly because we were basing it around our spiders exhibition, Punga Weri Weri, Spiders Up Close. So that was a good way of linking it in.
There were some interesting objects on display, snakes hanging off the statues, cars and animals with the crazy eyes, but wait for it. It's not just the googly eyes and spiders or even this in my head that's popular, it's actually something that's on the floor.
I'd have to say the grossest part first might be the little parcel of goodies that the dinosaur left behind, swarming with flies. But what you may not have heard, that I heard this afternoon when it was all nice and quiet, the buzzing, swarming flies around that nice little parcel of poo.
But she says more importantly it's a place to learn about Canterbury's history in a new and creative way.
We're very much a discovery place, and I think a place of learning, a place of real stories, and I think that's what part of the museum, Night at the Museum, is about getting people to come, explore the museum.
It's very much a team effort, with many taking the time to volunteer their commitments to help out.
I really enjoy reading to little kids. I just really like giving the power of story out to everyone, and seeing the joy in their faces is really nice.
But Marissa says it's not just for the young families.
We do find that the grandparents come along as well, so it's not just about the young families. The teenagers come, they want to be part of it as well. So, I think it's really interesting. People don't want to miss out.
And there was a positive vibe from the explorers as well.
I think it's good for the kids to come in the dark and run around and have a good look at things just the way they are.
Really, really good that it's put on and entertaining and fun.
It's great, yeah, we love it. We do it every Kids Fest, yeah.
The next event is scheduled for Thursday night at the museum. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. And finally, a captivating light experience like no other is taking place over the next few days in our very own world-class botanical gardens. The wet weather didn't stop people from Christchurch taking a stroll around this bright light adventure. As part of Kids Fest, the Christchurch City Council are putting on a 5-night showing at the Botanic Gardens, brightening up the night with lights.
We've opened the gardens up, put light displays right throughout the gardens for people to come and enjoy, and they're dotted up from the entrance of Rolleston Ave and the Armour Street car park that's accessed through Ricklin Ave at the moment.
The light show takes you on a journey around the Botanic Gardens, with a sea of light bursting at every bend. Organisers are hoping for a turnout of close to 5,000 every night, with Hawker saying this year's event has been focused around bringing more to the people.
We've tried for variety this time around, and so there's laser lights, there's animation on the walls, there's projection, which is really cool.
A large number of contractors and event staff have worked hard over the last few weeks to make the Christchurch Botanic Gardens come to life. The displays use the latest in lighting technology to make the garden glow with a stream of colour. Put together by award-winning garden designers, Night of Delight sees a large showcase, a pond filled with laser lights shining across the waters, an interactive wall that reacts to people's movements, and there's even a talking tree stump as well.
Nice to see you here.
Oh, nice to see you too. Something Hawker says will captivate people of all ages, and he says it's becoming more popular than ever.
We did it 2 years ago and we got over 20,000 people through. It's an opportunity to see the gardens in a different light. Not only the lights on display, but the trees, the plants, everything looks slightly different in darkness, and the gardens is quite dark. You don't get a lot of spillage from street lights, so you can be in areas that are almost completely dark. So it's an opportunity to experience a different view of the gardens.
And he says a lot of planning goes into something as big as this.
We throw around ideas, any ideas accepted, and then we sort of weed through them and work out what's possible, what's plausible, and then we bring in some of the contractors to come in with their ideas, because we know they've got clever things to do.
And the end result is a captivating experience. The event will be open, rain, hail or shine, and Hawker says it's all thanks to the help of modern technology.
It's moved on so fast now, a lot of LEDs, so there's a lot of things people can buy off the shelf now that give impressive effects even in a home garden. So it's moved on so much.
There will also be a gold coin donation set up, collecting money to help create a children's garden, a project that will hopefully start up soon. But for now, it's a time to enjoy the lights on a cold winter's night, with the event continuing this evening for 3 hours from 5:30 p.m. and will wrap up on Sunday night. What a sight. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. And that is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Jared McCulloch. Have a fantastic weekend.